Hello to everyone who lives and breathes Celtic, because today there is a lot to unpack around the club, and it all starts with a story that perfectly shows how quickly football can change when a player goes from being on the margins to being right in the heart of the action. All season long, one of the most talked about figures has been Arne Engels, and when you really look at his journey so far, it feels like a turning point moment in his career is happening right now. Earlier in the season, under the previous manager, he found himself watching far more than he would ever have wanted. He started only 6 out of 16 competitive matches, which for a player who arrived with such expectation felt like a massive frustration. But since the change in the dugout, everything has shifted. In the 9 matches after the departure of the former boss, Engels has started 8 times, and that number alone tells you how much the trust in him has grown and how different the vision is now. He has been honest about how difficult that early period was for him, and that honesty is something fans always connect with. He did not hide behind excuses. He admitted, he went straight to the manager and asked the question every footballer wants answered when they are not playing. Why? Why am I not in the team? Those conversations were described as calm, respectful, and clear. He was told it was about details, about understanding what the manager wanted from his midfielders, about small positioning issues, about decision-making under pressure. It was not personal, it was tactical. And from that moment, instead of sulking, Engels chose the harder road. He stayed behind after training sessions. He worked on movement. He worked on passing angles, and he worked to make himself impossible to ignore. What says a lot about his mindset is that he did not just speak to the coaching staff. He went to Callum McGregor, the heartbeat of this Celtic side, and asked him for brutal honesty. What can I do better? Where am I falling short? That kind of humility is not common, especially for a player who cost serious money and arrived with a reputation. Inside the dressing room, that kind of approach builds respect, and it also shows just how big McGregor's influence is behind the scenes. He is not just a captain on the pitch. He is a mentor, a reference point, someone younger players feel comfortable going to when they need guidance. Engels also spoke about something that only really hits you once you wear the shirt of a club like Celtic, and that is the pressure that never goes away. It is not enough to play well on a European night and then disappear at the weekend. At this club, every match is judged, every touch is judged, and you are expected to deliver again and again with barely any time to breathe. He has been at the club for around 18 months now, so he fully understands that reality. And this is where the frustration from some supporters comes in, because there is no doubt he has flashes of quality, but the word that keeps coming back is consistency. The weekend match was a perfect example of that problem. The tactical shape worked. The team got into good areas. The structure looked right. But in the final third, individual moments let the side down, and Engels was at the center of that. His passing lacked sharpness. He gave the ball away too easily, and when chances came, he did not take them. There was a shot he dragged high over the bar when he should have at least hit the target. There was a header in the second half that a midfielder at this level has to convert. These are not half chances. These are moments that change matches. When you look at the cold numbers, it becomes even more uncomfortable. Since arriving at the club, he has scored 12 goals in total. On the surface, that sounds decent until you break it down. 9 of those goals came from the penalty spot. That means only 3 goals from open play in 18 months. For a player expected to contribute in and around the box, that simply is not good enough. Even if he ends up playing deeper alongside Callum McGregor under the new manager, There is still a responsibility to arrive late in the area, to attack space, to be a threat. Just compare it to what others in midfield have produced in that same period, and the gap becomes clear. The positive part of this is that he seems fully aware of it. He has mentioned that people around the club have been telling him to be braver in the box, to gamble more, to anticipate rebounds, to attack crosses. That is not a talent issue. That is a mentality and timing issue, and those can be developed. The question hanging over everything is whether this new era under Wilfried Nancy is the perfect environment for him to finally click into gear. The raw materials are there, the technical base is there, the experience from playing at a high level earlier in his career is there. Then you have the noise from outside that always surrounds Celtic. And honestly, this part of the football world never fails to surprise. A former player from another club decided to take aim at the new manager after barely any time in the job, not for tactics or results, but for something as ridiculous as footwear and body language on the touchline. Imagine judging a manager who has been in charge for only a handful of days because of the color of his trainers or the fact he uses a tactics board. That tells you a lot about how football discussion can drift away from reality. The funniest part is that one of the moments being mocked actually came right before a goal. The image of the manager trying to communicate ideas, trying to give instructions, trying to help the players from the sideline, somehow being twisted into a negative says more about the person complaining than the man trying to do the job. This kind of noise can be distracting, but inside the club, it usually has the opposite effect. It creates a siege mentality. It pulls focus back onto the dressing room. It reminds everyone that the answers are found on the pitch, not in cheap criticism. And while the media noise can be loud, the real Celtic spirit always shows itself in moments that have nothing to do with tactics or formations. Over the weekend, the supporters once again proved that this club is bigger than just football. In horrible weather conditions, people turned up in huge numbers to donate and help those in need. Tens of thousands were raised in cash, and van after van of food was delivered to food banks across the area. That is what this club represents. That is the culture. That is the identity. Players feel that, new signings feel that, managers feel that. All of this builds into the next big test for the team, because European football is not forgiving, and the upcoming clash with Roma is exactly the kind of match that tells you where a team really stands. Different styles, different pressures, different atmospheres, and that is where characters are revealed, where players like Engels can make a statement with actions rather than words, where consistency stops being a talking point and starts being a requirement. Now, the attention shifts fully to the European night that everyone has been waiting for, because when Celtic step onto the pitch against Roma, it is not just another match. It feels like a real examination of where this team is in this moment of its season. These are the kind of games that define campaigns, where small mistakes get punished and small moments of quality decide everything. The atmosphere around the squad has that familiar mix of excitement and tension, because you know this is a team capable of producing something special, but you also know the margins are razor thin at this level. Roma come into this game as one of those classic European sides that carry both reputation and danger. Domestically, their recent form has not been perfect. The results over the last couple of matches have raised a few questions about their sharpness, and there have been performances that did not quite live up to expectations. That in itself makes them unpredictable. Sometimes a team that is under a bit of pressure becomes far more dangerous, because They come into a match with something to prove. They have had matches where the tempo dropped, where the creativity dried up, and where the final touch in front of goal simply was not there. But that does not mean they are weak. It just means they are human. What makes them such an intriguing opponent is the way they like to play. There is a physical edge to their game. They are strong through the spine of the team, and they are very comfortable turning a match into a battle if they need to. Their defensive structure is compact and aggressive, and they like to make the pitch feel small for their opponents. They are also very dangerous from wide areas. Their wing-backs are asked to work relentlessly, getting high up the pitch to stretch the game and deliver crosses into the box. That is a big part of their identity, and it is something Celtic will have to manage very carefully. One of the biggest talking points is their lack of cutting edge at the top end of the pitch. Despite having talented forwards, they have struggled to consistently turn good positions into goals. There have been matches where they dominated territory, controlled possession, and still walked away without scoring. That kind of pattern can either continue or it can suddenly snap when least expected. They sometimes deploy a player in a false attacking role rather than a traditional striker, which adds numbers in midfield but can leave the box empty when crosses come in. It is a risk and reward system, and on any given night, it can swing either way. From a Celtic perspective, the tactical battle is fascinating because both teams are comfortable using a back three. That creates very interesting one versus one battles all over the pitch. The centre-backs will be dragged wide, wing-backs will be forced to track runners, and midfielders will have to decide when to hold and when to gamble. These are the kind of matches where communication is everything, because one mistimed step or one missed runner can open up space that normally is not there. It could turn into one of those end-to-end European games that keep fans on edge from start to finish. The key for Celtic will be bravery on the ball. When you play against a side that likes to press and dominate physically, it is easy to panic and go long too quickly. But Celtic at their best are calm, patient, and clever in possession. The centre-backs will need to be comfortable stepping out with the ball. The midfield will need to offer angles constantly. The movement off the ball has to be sharp and purposeful. This is not a game where you can hide. Every touch matters, every decision matters, and every run has to have intention behind it. There will also be individuals on the Roma side that demand total concentration. The creative hub of their team is someone who lives for moments like this, a player who can drift into pockets of space, who can turn on a half yard, and who can slip a pass that completely changes the shape of a defense. If he is given time, he will hurt you. If he is pressured constantly, he can be forced into rushed decisions. That duel in the middle of the park could end up being the defining part of the night. Another threat comes from their wide areas, where explosive, skillful players love to isolate fullbacks and take them on. They want to draw fouls, win corners, and create chaos around the penalty area. Celtic's wide defenders are going to be tested not just for their defensive ability, but for their discipline and timing. Step in too early and you get beaten. Step in too late and you invite crosses into dangerous areas. This is also the kind of match where set pieces can become massive. Both teams have players who are strong in the air and brave in physical duels. Corners and free kicks will not just be pauses in the game, they will be genuine scoring opportunities. That adds another layer of pressure because one poorly defended corner can undo 90 minutes of good work. And within all of that, there is the personal battles. Players like Engels know this is the stage where opinions are really formed. It is one thing to play well domestically. It is another thing entirely to deliver in Europe against a side with this kind of history and quality. This is where you go from being promising to being reliable. This is where you show that you can handle not just the ball, but the moment. The dressing room understands what this night means. There is a quiet confidence, but also a clear awareness that nothing will be given for free. The physical demands will be huge. The mental focus has to be perfect. The crowd, whether home or away, will be intense. Every mistake will be amplified. Every good moment will lift the entire team. There is a feeling that this match could be decided by one brave decision, one midfielder breaking lines with a forward run, one defender stepping in at exactly the right time, one winger choosing to take his man on instead of playing safe. These are the margins that decide European football at this level. And as the players prepare to walk out, there is that familiar sense that this is why they play football. Nights like this are the reason you train in the cold, the reason you push through pain, the reason you accept criticism, because when the whistle blows and the ball starts moving, nothing else matters except the next pass, the next tackle, and the next chance to make something happen. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. It seems the unthinkable has happened in Scottish football, and the chatter around the terraces is deafening. Word on the street is that Celtic and Rangers have finally pulled off a swap that's sending shockwaves through the nation. If you thought you'd seen it all in the old firm rivalry, think again. Sources close to the clubs claim that Peter Lawwell, the man usually associated with careful manoeuvring and long-term strategy at Celtic, has somehow masterminded a deal that nobody saw coming. The deal, described by insiders as jaw-dropping and utterly unprecedented, reportedly involves a straight exchange between key players from both sides, a concept so alien in the bitterly contested rivalry that it's hard to imagine a calmer night at Parkhead or Ibrox for weeks. Fans on social media are already in a frenzy, speculating endlessly about which players have swapped jerseys and what this means for the balance of power in Scottish football. Some suggest it's a calculated gamble by Lawwell to inject fresh energy into the squad, while others whisper that Rangers board saw an opportunity to reshape their team without paying the usual astronomical transfer fees. The atmosphere in the footballing community is electric. Pubs and forums alike are alive with debate, with every pundit and supporter offering a different theory about the motivations behind this move. What's particularly striking is the audacity of the clubs involved. Celtic and Rangers, whose encounters are usually defined by tension and tactical warfare, are suddenly cooperating in a way that would have seemed laughable even a few years ago. Lawwell's role in this maneuver has been lauded by some as visionary, while others are cautious, suggesting the backlash from die-hard supporters could be intense if the gamble doesn't pay off. Regardless of perspective, one thing is certain: the Scottish football landscape will not be the same, and every match from now on will be analysed under the shadow of this daring swap. Whether this is the start of a new era of bold moves or a one-off stunt to shock the nation, the buzz is undeniable. The old firm rivalry, already rich in history and drama, has entered uncharted territory. Supporters are bracing themselves for what promises to be a season unlike any other, with whispers of further surprises still circulating behind closed doors. As rumors continue to swirl, one thing is clear: Peter Lawwell has ensured that Scottish football fans have something to talk about for months to come. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.